Yeah, so the story is called A Rose for Emily. Anybody read anything here? Hmm? Anybody? Okay, so when you look at the title, really, A Rose for Emily, why A Rose for Emily? Who's this Emily, and why are we giving her a rose? Anybody? Who is this Emily, and why are we giving her a rose? Girls, boys?
I think she is a sad woman.
Sorry?
A sad woman.
She's a sad woman.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think she is a mad woman.
Oh, she's a mad woman. Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's interesting. Yeah, that's both, actually, both correct. Really. She is sad, miserable, and mad. Yes. Yeah. Why mad, Suha?
Because she killed the man who was trying to show her love. He was playing with her, but at the same time she killed him and kept him at her bedroom to save him with her forever.
What kind of people? What kind of people do we have here then? As you said, mad people.
Mad people who want to own other people.
Yeah, really, it's a very shocking, really very shocking story. Really shocking, as I told you, horror, miserable story, where we have a young lady, a young woman, a woman really, well, she's not, when at that time she was maybe young, but not exactly young. She was in her 30s actually. And because, of course, of so many circumstances, she did what she did. Of course, by any standards, by any means, we don't agree with her at all to have killed the man the man really who was supposed to have been in love with her and who was maybe planning to marry her or something. Now she completely turned against him when she realized maybe that he's not going to marry her. I mean, this is really unbelievable. Do we go on killing our prospective husbands or prospective wives? And it's funny, really, it's an amazing thing. The world is miserable. I know somebody who did exactly the same. Well, not exactly the same. I mean, in terms of keeping the body and so on, no. But I know people who killed because, the other side said no. I mean, come on. Come on. That's crazy. So really the story, because of this, we say, yeah, it's a terrible, really gothic, terrifying, horrifying, horror kind of thing, really, in many ways. But really, our friend, the writer is an amazing, I think, one of the best American writers as well. I told you last time about Edgar Allan Poe. He's really my favorite. To be honest with you, he's my favorite in the short story and in poetry. He's my favorite. But we see, really, William Faulkner is as powerful, I think, in the novel. William Faulkner was, of course, maybe about more than nearly a century after Edgar Allan Poe. William Faulkner was a great novelist. He was talking about the 20th century, really the American problems in the 1930s, 40s, and 50s, and maybe the beginning of the 20th century, and the economical and a lot of the social, economical, ideological, political problems in the United States. Really, Edgar Allan Poe didn't show that clearly, of course, at that time, because life was not maybe that complicated as when it was with our friend William Faulkner. Faulkner, as I said, he's a typical, absolutely typical modernist novelist, 20th century modernist novelist. And what is modernism? Later on, you shall get more ideas maybe about the whole concept of modernism, really, and the question of modernity and how life got complicated, and even the reaction against realism in terms of arts and writings, and in poetry and in fiction and in paintings and even in music, in architecture, and everything. You could see how modernists reacted to all of these realistic, traditional way of life. And Faulkner was showing something like that in his fiction throughout his novels. Really, he wrote a lot of novels. Here we have only a little example of a short story. So I'm giving you a little idea maybe here as a little introduction about him. He was such a fantastic, unbelievable, strong, really novelist in the American literature and the American fiction. Faulkner, as I said, because he was such a modernist, really sort of, radical, modernist, radical writer, he gave us a radical story in all perspectives, really in full proportion, really in terms of ideas, in terms of themes, in terms of narrative, in terms of plot, in terms of, narrators and everything. The story is an excellent example, a stark example of all of these. Really, it's a lovely story. Forget about the killing. Forget about the killing and the theme, which is the killing and so on. You will find a lot of other really issues in the short story, which is really amazing and strong, and a plus for our friend William Faulkner. Now, Faulkner here in this story, has nothing to give to this crazy woman except a rose when she died. After her death, for example, they put one rose on her body or on her grave because she was sick, she was mad, and really the story says she was made mad, she was made sick by her people, by her father, by her society, by the system, by economy, by politics, by blah, 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 blah. So naturally, she was a nice young lady. Naturally, originally, she was a really naturally good, honorable, decent, simple young lady who wants to get married and to be happy with her life. But her father did not let her. And you say to me, come on, doctor, why are you fathers are like that? Well, we are not like that. We are not like that. We are not. We fathers are not like that. Her father is a stupid man, is an ugly man, is a terrible man, is a wicked man who believed, here again to come back to the idea, who believed to the same story or the idea and the story, who believed that he's a superior man, who is above everybody. Every man who came and knocked at his door, say, I want to marry your daughter, he would kick them away. And she would be angry. So he kicked every man who knocked at her door. Come on. How many men do you expect to come to your door and knock your door and say, will you marry me, your daughter? And then, you know, you get kicked away and come on. Come on, man. What's wrong with you? Isn't it? Yeah. Absolutely. That's why this young lady was devastated, because she honored her father. She's a good girl. She honored her father and respected his ideas, but she was mad at him. She was mad at him. Killing that old man, killing that boy, she really wanted to kill all men, including her father, because they did what they did to her, what he did to her. Doctor, what's wrong with you this morning? Muhammad, Ahmed, what do you think? Huh? Yeah. Really, that's the story, if you like. That's the idea here in this story. And I will start reading the story with you, boys and girls, as you can see my screen. You can see my screen?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So notice here the narrator, as I told you, the story really is full of, as I said, full of questions to do with the style of narration, with the flashback and flash forward, and the jump in time, and the way the plot is done, and the suspense, and the movement in time, and really, as I said, flashback and flash forward, flashback and flash forward. And the narrator here is a very amazing voice we have here, as I will show you. It's really an excellent story here. No, let me read with you. When Miss Emily Grierson died, our whole town went to her funeral. The men threw a sort of peaceful, respectful affection for a fallen monument, the women mostly out of curiosity to see the inside of her house, which no one save an old manservant, a combined gardener and cook, had seen in at least 10 years. Yeah. Who's speaking here? Razan?
Yes, doctor.
What voice is this?
Because it said our, I think he is a character in the story. Because, yeah, he's a first person narrator.
He is a character in the story, first person narrator.
Yes, maybe.
Yeah, well, thank you very much. Yes, I think this is a good guess. But you see, he always uses not first person. It's really, he always uses not the singular. He didn't say I when he said our whole town. Again, really, as we shall see later, of course, I will show you, he speaks always in the plural. He says we. He speaks always in a plural voice, as if the whole town is the narrator. The whole town is the narrator. All of the society is the narrator. Of course, this is impossible. So here, the speaker for the whole society is one voice here, as you say. Yes, first person, yes. But really, he's speaking in the plural sense when he says, we, the town people, we did this, we thought, we believe, we acted, we saw. Huh? He always uses the we, which is the plural, which is really amazing voice. Here, I think one of the challenges that our friend William Faulkner is really waging against the traditional narrative. Narrators use normally I, or he, she, it, or they, you know, but hardly we use the word we. So again, notice here, the whole paragraph is one sentence. Yeah, Soha, correct?
Yes.
One sentence. And notice, what do you also see in this first paragraph?
It's a long sentence, yes, but he described a lot. So the reader can imagine the scene.
Yeah, very good. What about the time here? Can you think of the time? Because remember, we know in a story, I told you, we said that a story is always a sequence of narratives arranged according to time. What is the time here? Boys, Saud? Hello, boys. Boys, where are you? Boys? I have at least 5 boys in this class. Where are you? Muhammad, Ahmed, Abdullah. Hello? Well, that means they went back to sleep. Yeah. Abdullah, not here. Ahmed,
Yes,
not
Doctor.
here. Huh?
I'm here.
Abdullah, you're here?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, you are not in the mood to speak, to say anything. Okay, no problem. Okay, no problem. I can't snatch words from your mouth, but never mind. Really here, the time you can see is the story begins with the death of Emily. Notice here, because it says, when Miss Emily Grierson died. So the story begins here, as you can see, with the death of Miss Emily. Miss Emily, who, you know, who's the subject of the whole story. So the story begins towards the end of the story, if you like. Here, the story begins at the end, which is the death of Miss Emily. And then we will come back, and then come back again and again, forth and back, backward and forward to know details about her. So the story, the time here begins at the death of the character, the main heroine of the story, who is Emily. And we said our whole town went to her funeral. The men threw a sort of respectful affection for a fallen monument. Fallen monument. Why Hanin? Do you have Hanin here?
Yes, Mr. I'm here.
Yeah, Hanin. Why fallen monument?
Because maybe this is a sad moment at that time.
Why monument? What's monument?
Maybe the same time. Or
Sorry,
I think
The same?
This at like moment.
No. Monument. Monument is a big, massive statue that you have in the middle of the town, or like a big statue or a sculpture, which is made for somebody in the whole town to remember the whole, the person. So by making a massive monument, as we say in Arabic, timthal. Huh? Why fallen monument? التمثال الساقط. Why ساقط?
Because maybe something great happened at that time.
Yeah. Okay, Hanin, thank you. Really, the idea here, he wants to say that the narrator here is giving her this great picture, this great image, as if people really were looking at her as if she was a massive monument. Like the story of the Happy Prince. You know the story of the Happy Prince? The story of Happy Prince. Anybody knows it? Swallow, swallow, a little swallow. Do you know the story of the Happy Prince?
No.
Al-Amir al-Sa'id. No?
No.
Yeah. So really the narrator here is saying, because Emily became an important figure in society, why would she become an important figure? Because originally she's nothing. Originally she's nobody. But after all these years, after what happened to her, she became like a statue, like a very important figure in town and in society. She became like a massive figure, amazing, important person in town. And when she died, it's like a statue which is, which has been struck and fallen, as if struck by thunder or by storm, and fell down on the ground, broken, dead. So because really the narrator here is mocking society to say, how on earth did you, could you make such a powerful figure or an important figure from somebody who is not important? How on earth could you make such a huge image of a girl who is not huge? And to say fallen monument, as if she's an amazing person who died in town. But she's not. She's not. So really here, the narrator is mocking the whole attitude of society, looking at her as a monument, looking at her as an amazing figure when she's not.
Victor, I have a comment.
Yes.
I think he might use he used the word monument to show that she always she has been something, and she will always be the same. I mean, she can't change. She had the same personality for years.
Yeah, I like that. Good, Suha. Yes, very good, Suha. Yeah, what you say is true, and it's connected to Emily's character. Absolutely. Yeah, I see what you mean. I agree with you to some extent, because yes, she was a terrible fixed character who was crazy from the very beginning till the end. She was, as I told you, she was made really crazy to have been, a terribly static character who, remained solid, like marble column. And at the end here, or through her death, that thing fallen down. So notice here, the narrator also is mocking society. Men went to her funeral, not because they love her, but because they, you know, well, he said respectful affection for her stature, for her character. Whereas the women, notice here how he's laughing and mocking women. He's saying women did not really care about her. They were nosy, only nosy women. They wanted to see what's going on. They want to sniff around. They want to sniff around and see, you know, the gossip or what's going on. Women mostly out of curiosity to see the inside of her house. You see? So this is what I say, sniffing. Actually, we say this in Arabic sometimes. We say this, Ya Suha. Do you say this in Arabic here in Oman? Let me say it to you in Syrian Arabic. We say to somebody, ha, jai shamsham akhbar.
Yeah, we use this.
Shamsham al-akhbar, shamshama.
And I think there's another sentence we used, and it can describe the situation also. We said, المرأة عدوة المرأة. Like, men respect her, but they women did not care. Yeah, they was just curious.
Yeah, well, yeah. Again, I like your idea, but really here that's not the whole thing. The writer wants to laugh at women being only nosy. In English, we say nosy. As we say, يعني يدحش أنفه مكان ما يساعه. So the idea really here, he's saying he's laughing at women only, not they don't care about her. And maybe, as Suha is saying, maybe they, you know, they never really feel sympathy or respect for her. Only they want to sniff around. And this is my word in English, sniff around like a dog, you know, sniffing, as they said, shamshama. They want to see, you know, what's going on, which no one, save an old man servant. What's the word save here? What does it mean, save? Save an old man servant. Save, what's save? What does it mean? What another word in English? No one save an old man servant. Suha, Razan, Haneen, boys, girls.
Maybe it means that no one see that home from inside except that man.
Who was speaking?
Haneen.
You are my girl. Thank you, Ya Haneen. Yes, absolutely. Except. Save here means except. Yes. Yeah, very good. Yeah, so really you can see here the idea, no one except an old man who was a manservant, as you can see, manservant, not woman servant. And that manservant, notice here, there were this dash, this long dash. He gave us further explanation to say, what is this manservant? He said, a combined gardener and cook. So he was doing a lot of jobs, a lot of things in this house. A gardener and a cook. For 10 years, nobody saw anybody in this house except a manservant. For 10 years, notice, had seen in at least 10 years. So for 10 years, nobody was allowed to go to her house. Nobody entered her house for the last 10 years when she died. Huh? So notice here, really, when you read this, again here, when I maybe, as you know, notice here, I gave this little paragraph, which is one sentence. I now, as you can see, I spent nearly 20 minutes explaining this sentence. Why do you think?
The writer language is maybe.
Yeah, Marwa?
Maybe because of the writer's language.
Language and, yeah?
Or style.
Yeah, and what does it tell you? What do you understand from me here? Sorry? What did you say?
His style, I said.
Yeah, his style. Yeah. Really, I want to say to you, boys and girls, this morning, I want to say, really, when you study and read, and I told you that before, when you read literature and short stories, I know you are education people. I know this is not your main field. Yes, I agree with you. But really, sometimes people say, well, why do we study literature? Literature and stories and novels and plays are useless and we don't get anything out of them. I always say that's absolutely wrong, and that's absolutely a fallacy. We learn a lot, really, a lot from reading a novel or a short story or a play or a poem. We focus on the style, the language, the verbs, the adjectives, the sentences, the structure. We learn English. We study and learn English properly, absolutely, through literature. So that's why here, when I read for you like that, and I read it slowly and carefully, I want you to think when you read a short story or a novel, to think of every word, why this word is used here, why the writer said this, you know? Maybe you don't know why, but you have to think in the context. We don't know why for sure, but we guess. We try to give our own expectations, and that's the beauty of literature. You give your own explanations and your own interpretations and so on. And that's the beauty of literature, because there's no one single answer. There are many answers. So that's why here I want you to really pay attention to this, what I have already done here. Notice the next paragraph. It was a big squarish frame house that had once been white, decorated with cupolas and spires and scrolled balconies in the heavily lightsome style of the 70s, set on what had once been our most select street. But garages and cotton gins had encroached and obliterated even the august names of that neighborhood. Only Miss Emily's house was left, lifting its stubborn and coquettish decay above the cotton wagons and the gasoline pumps. An eyesore among eyesores. Really, here the writer again, he's, you know, in this section here, let me finish it and then I will ask you maybe one question. And now Miss Emily had gone to join the representatives of those august names, where they lay in the cedar bemused cemetery among the ranked and anonymous graves of Union and Confederate soldiers who fell at the Battle of Jefferson. Notice the narrator is here talking again about Emily's house and about her house and the decorations, the colorings of the house, how it looks, how old, how the shape, and so on. And then he moved, he started in the past, and then he moved to the present. He said, now she is going to go to, he said, I will read that. The next sentence, you can see the last sentence. So it was, so it here means the house. It was a big, again, of course, you can see it, it says, it was a big squarish frame house that had once been white. So it means this house is very, very old now. It had been once white, but now it's not. And the house, now it's very old when she died. And notice the decorations he's giving, the old decorations and the balcony. And again, as you can see, he said the style, heavily lightsome style of the 70s. What 70s? What 70s? I don't know. Maybe it could be 1870s or 1770s, but I'm sure he's going back to the 1870s, he means. 1870s, right? Towards the second half of the 19th century. So it's a very old traditional house. Notice, set on what had once been our most select street. So in those days, when it was built, it was a great street. That street was a lovely street, was a massive street, was the main high street of the town. So when it was built there in that good, lovely street. But notice here, so the sentence, it began in the past. The second sentence, he will come to the present. Notice he said, garages and cotton gins had encroached. Look at the verb, encroached, meaning step by step, starting biting these, places. And notice obliterated means swallowing up everything, meaning the whole street was changed. Modern time, because old buildings are always torn down and they build new ones. Since I've been here in Al Khod area myself, actually, I have seen so far at least 4 or 5 buildings. I knew 4 or 5 buildings, old ones, and they torn them down and they built new ones, really lovely new ones. And now when you look at it, you say, oh, what a lovely, etc. So the idea here that because of modern time and modernity, things change. So that's why here he's giving this idea that this lady would not allow anybody to touch her house. Notice, encroached and obliterated even the august names of the neighborhood, meaning modernity changed all those big names. Even the most important, respected people accepted to change their houses and didn't care about the tradition, except our friend. Notice, only Miss Emily's house was left, lifting its stubborn and coquettish decay. Notice here, lifting means raising her head high. Again, notice stubbornly, and notice coquettish. So what's coquettish?
I don't know.
Huh? So you should know. You should. Anybody? Coquettish and coquette? What's coquette? Oh, we say one lovely word in Arabic, I'm sure you know it, ya Suham. Do you use the word دلوعة, غنوجة?
Yes.
Huh? Yeah. We say دلوعة.
Yeah.
دلوعة أمها أو دلوعة أبوها means مدللة, isn't it? Huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. So here really when we say coquette, sometimes we say a spoiled person. When you spoil your child, we say, you know, you spoil your girl or you spoil your boy, you say دلوعة أبوه or دلوعة أمه or دلوعة أمها or دلوعة أبوها, right? Means she was spoiled by her parents. And here really the writer is mocking the house, is like you know, stubborn and coquettish. So عنيدة and دلوعة. And notice decay. How come? Means it's really deteriorating. Yani a house which is absolutely dead and ugly looking and dying looking and miserable looking, but high, raising its head stubbornly and in a coquettish way, meaning challenging everybody to be, you know, to touch it. And sometimes when you know, sometimes when you go to old places, you know, I've seen houses like this in Matrah area, which they are really lovely houses. In Matrah area, I've seen houses like this. They look absolutely lovely. But to some people, they would say, oh, what's this? You know, you understand? So really the idea here, the narrator is again here in a strong way, really describing this, you know, the house as being stubborn and being coquettish. And again, notice here this old one and the modern one, he said, among cotton wagons and gasoline pumps, meaning modern life changed the whole street. Now you can see modern stuff, cotton, he said, cotton wagons and you know, modern gasoline pumps. And again here, notice this, what he said. This house looks an eyesore among eyesores. Really here, the narrator again is exaggerating and really laughing and mocking. What's the eyesore? Sometimes we say eyesore, يعني وجع في العين, which is really sometimes ألم في العين or أزمة or something, pain, you know, pain. Sorry, when I say, sorry. So I'm saying pain really here, pain in the eye, notice here. Eyesore among eyesores. What eyesores? Can you describe this, Suha?
Yeah, I think it looks weird in a society, in a modern society, that this house is so old, and I think I think he isn't describing the house only. He also described the ideology that Miss Emily is following.
Yeah, I see what you mean, but really I want you to say something else, really. I'm talking here about the place and the buildings. He's saying her house is an eyesore. Okay, يعني بيت كعين ورمانة، بيت كالعين الورمانة بين العيون الورمانة الأخرى. أي عيون؟
The
Huh?
other houses?
Huh?
The other houses?
What houses?
The houses in the village.
No. Yeah, well, you did not really. I wanted to say something. Who's speaking? Are you still the same? Who's speaking?
Yeah, me.
Suha. Yeah, Suha. Yeah, really here, our friend is a terrible man. He's saying, yes, our house is old and looks like eyesore. يعني it looks like عين ورمانة ولكن بين العيون الورمانة الأخرى. Which one? He means modern society changed life and gave us better buildings, but these buildings are ugly and I don't like them. So they are eyesores in the same way. They are pain in my head. I don't like them either. The new ones are ugly and the old one here, you know, we thought that we changed life into the better, but it is not. So her house, yes, an old one, it looks like eyesore, but it is among eyesores, means these new buildings are even worse and I don't like them. They are ugly. So yes, here to come back to you, Yasuha, yeah, ideology is talking about how society has changed. He does not like this change. They built it a new one among gasoline pumps and they said, you know, all these new buildings, but they say, I don't like them. They are ugly. They are eyesores. So really here he's political and ideological in this. And of course here you can say, you know, you have to think about the word. Why say eyesore? Yani, as we say eyesore, really, as if to say, because it's very painful. The most difficult pain that you have in your body is in your eye. So that's why he used the word eyesore, as if, as we say, ain warmana or al-wazma. You know, I say it here in Arabic really to explain it to you in a good way. You know, if you have swollen eye or, you know, absolutely painful eye, among the other painful eyes, or he said sore eyes or eyesores. And now he moves to the present time. He said, and now Miss Emily had gone to join the representatives of those august names where they lay. And funny here, the ironical thing is, he said, now they are taking her to be buried among the soldiers who defended the country. Why would they? Again, this is ironical, isn't it? Giving her a decent burial and bury her among the Confederates, among the soldiers, among the big names who defended the country or the independence, as we say in, for example, in Syria, we say مقبرة الشهداء. مقبرة الشهداء. What شهداء? شهداء, for example, الحرب or شهداء الاستقلال or شهداء, etc. Isn't it? So here really he's saying the Union and Confederate soldiers who fell at the Battle of Jefferson. Well, this is it, the Battle of Jefferson, which is the massive, you know, battle of independence. Independence against the British colony. You know, he went back 200 years back to say, to bury her among those highly respected people. Why? Why? Again, really, he is ironical. Here, there is another irony. Emily is nobody, but she was made somebody. Emily is nothing, but she was made into a monument. Emily is not, you know, she didn't do any good to society, yet she was buried among the soldiers who fell in battle of independence. What a terrible, ironical thing. Why? What really does he want to say? You know, again, I think here there is a lot of irony everywhere in this story here. Again, alive. Alive, Miss Emily had been a tradition, a duty and a care, a sort of hereditary obligation upon the town, dating that day in 1894, when Colonel Sartoris, the mayor, who had fathered the edict that no Negro woman should appear on the streets without an apron, remitted her taxes, the dispensation dating from the death of her father on into perpetuity. Look at this word here, said alive. Alive, Miss Emily had been a tradition. I think this sentence, I mean, this word only, alive, is a very strong word here. An amazing, you know, amazing word, full of meanings. And the meanings here you can see really, you know, is I think, you know, as I told you maybe before, they compact the condensation of words, of meanings in fewer words. Really, he comes back, he jumped back about 30 years ago, or even more than 30 years back, to say when she was alive, when Emily was alive, she was a tradition. Notice, she was a tradition. But notice again, she embodied tradition, duty, care, and, you know, he goes on and on. And he explained even more, a sort of hereditary obligation upon the town. So again, really, he gives us in a very strong language and very strong, really, narrative to say how she was an amazing figure, that young lady. Everybody in town, even 30 years back, everybody respected her. And that's why, you know, she's saying she was a tradition, she was a duty, she was a care. How? You know, people respected her, cared for her, gave her all the duties that she deserves, gave her all the respects that she deserves. And sometimes we say, even when she does not deserve, when really she does not deserve. Again, we say, was it hereditary obligation? Something that we inherited and it was wrong? Something we took from our fathers and we went on doing it? Why? So notice here he went back to 1894. So we have here a date. So now we don't know what date we are now. You know, when you say now, you know, but later, of course, when we see that it was for 40 years, so we can do this calculation, right? So we know that the story, as you can see, published 1931. Look at it. Published 1931. So maybe if you do a little bit of calculation, then you say, well, yeah, so he's talking about 40 years of timing. So now he's telling us something happened 30 years back, or about 30 years back, right? When Colonel Sartoris, the mayor at that time, gave one order, as he said, who had fathered the edict. And look at the verb, fathered. What a funny verb to use. Fathered? Why fathered? Come on. Why fathered? What a funny, what a strange verb, isn't it? He who fathered the edict that no Negro woman should appear on the streets without an apron. Was she a Negro? Is she black? Really, again, here we say, why? Again, the word fathered really means to issue, to give an order, but we don't say fathered. You know, for God's sake, we don't use the word fathered as a verb. So really here he wants to say, he gave an order which was like something in a sort of respect, in a sort of love, which is maybe shown or felt by a father to his children, to his kids, by not taking taxes from her. Notice, remitted her taxes. The dispensation dating from the death of her father on into perpetuity, meaning starting from when her father died onwards, they stopped taking taxes from her forever. Perpetuity forever. But of course, Miss Emily wouldn't accept that. She wouldn't, or she doesn't believe that she accepts charity. Not that Miss Emily should have accepted charity. Colonel Sartoris invented an involved tale to the effect that Miss Emily's father had loaned money to the town, which the town, as a matter of business, preferred this way of repaying. Only a man of Colonel Sartoris' generations and thought could have invented it, and only a woman could have believed it. I mean, again, look at this funny structure when he's saying only a man of Colonel Sartoris' generation and thought could have invented it. Meaning, what a funny, strange man to have really come, you know, to have invented this idea that her father gave money to the city. So that's why we don't want to take taxes from her. And the narrator is saying, what a funny man. Do you think that we are fools? Do you think we believe you? Do you think we believe you, that people would believe that a man had given money to the town? We don't believe you. We are not fools. And again, he's saying, notice here, and we said, and only a woman could have believed it. Even Emily herself didn't believe or didn't know or didn't want to believe that, or she's mocking him even as well. because she said, I will not pay. I will not pay. And you can go to hell. Do whatever you like to do. And you know, because of her stubbornness, because they could not make her pay, you know, so that's why she was, if you like, a total challenge to the town of not accepting to pay taxes. So the mayor, because the mayor couldn't make her pay, he couldn't make her pay. So he had to invent the story that, yeah, her father gave us money before. So we say, okay, we don't want from her taxes, which is again a terrible, you know, a terrible criticism against the tax system at that time in American society and in American economy and American politics, if you like, and how taxes are given and how taxes are taken and so on. So really here the narrator is mocking Colonel Sartoris, who issued a decree that no black person should go out except wearing an apron. Why to wear an apron? You know, to show that you are a slave? Are these people, black people, are slaves? Why? But he said, women, no Negro women. Is she a Negro? She's not a Negro. And no Negro women. When the next generation, with its more modern ideas, became mayors and aldermen, this arrangement created some little dissatisfaction. So notice here, the narrator went back 40 years and then he moved another maybe 10 years or something, or even 20 years later, and now he's saying, giving us another idea. And he said, next generation means what? A generation is how many years do we have? A generation after 20 years or 30 years or 50 years? I don't know. So really here the narrator is giving us time and time and time. This really arrangement of time is an amazing point in this short story. So when Colonel Sartoris decided not to take taxes from her, other mayors who came after him, maybe they wanted to take taxes because they didn't know about this arrangement. That's what it means here. On the first of the year, they mailed her a tax notice. February came and there was no reply. They wrote her a formal letter asking her to call at the sheriff's office at her convenience. A week later, the mayor wrote her himself, offering to call or to send his car for her, and received in reply a note on paper of an archaic shape in a thin flowing calligraphy in faded ink, to the effect that she no longer went out at all. The tax notice was also enclosed without comment. Again, notice this funny, really paragraph here, that they sent her more notices, more letters saying, come on, lady, you have to pay taxes. You should pay taxes like everybody else. And the last letter was sent by the mayor himself. And even the mayor himself said, okay, I can come to you if you want, or I'll send my car for you, or I will send my own men to bring you. And she sent him a message. No, I don't go out. I no longer go out. Notice, no longer went out at all. And she sent back the notice, the tax notice, with nothing. So really the mayor was angry. He said, what's wrong with this woman? They called a special meeting of the board of aldermen. This is really here the idea again. The writer is mocking we're saying the board of aldermen, مجلس الشيوخ. اجتمع مجلس الشيوخ. ما شاء الله. Why? Because Emily is not paying taxes. A deputation waited upon her, knocked at the door through which no visitor had passed since she ceased giving China painting lessons 8 or 10 years earlier. Notice here, deputation waited upon her. So really here the narrator is saying, well, like a message was sent to her, but not just a normal message, but a deputation. Means, as we say, like an emissary or emissaries, or really like, you know, a group of people went to her. Wafd, as we say in Arabic, I think very good, you know, emissary. So notice, a deputation waited upon her, meaning they went to her and waited downstairs in her house to meet her, to tell her that she should pay taxes. And here the narrator is mocking the way she's, you know, she's described her house. He said for 10 years since she was giving China painting. So she was doing a job. She's a painter. They were admitted by the old Negro into a dim hall from which a stairway mounted into still more shadow. So here we know that he's an old Negro. He's not a Negro woman. So she has you know, this cook here. Notice. It smelled, meaning the place, you know, the whole house. It smelled of dust and disuse, a close, dank smell. The Negro led them into the parlor. It was furnished in heavy leather-covered furniture. When the Negro opened the blinds of one window, they could see that the leather was cracked, and when they sat down, a faint dust rose sluggishly about their thighs, spinning with slow motes in the single sun ray. On a tarnished gilt easel before the fireplace stood a crayon portrait of Miss Emily's father. So you can see again the amazing description really here. The description of this house, the ugly thing, the, you know, the dust, and the graphic description really. The house is so dirty and nothing has been done. And this house has never been touched, you know, nearly 10 years. Even it has, you know, her inside, and the man, you know, her Negro servant, as we said above there, gardener. Notice here, it's saying manservant. Remember, we said above the first paragraph, manservant, an old manservant, right? So we see here this, the graphic, absolutely amazing description of all of this, which is really terrible. I think I will stop here and I will continue next time, because I think that's enough for today. I will stop recording.